Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Here in this video I am going to discuss about the built-in functions in Python. So in Python 3 documentation we have more than 60 built-in functions available, but in this video I am going to talk about the functions which are important and mostly used in the real-time scenarios. So I have listed out the functions that I am going to cover in this section. And in this directory, let me create a Python file first. Let's name it build working with things. Okay, so the first function that I'm going to tell you about is print. So as you know, the split function prints the element inside. So it could be hello world like this. Let me take this output. Yes, hello world. So similarly, hello world. So and as well as hello world. So do you find any difference between these three lines? No, in this output there is no difference, but here I am enclosing with the single quote, here with the double quote, and here with the triple quotes. And similarly we can make single s. This should work. Yes. So here you see, what if I want to print one word wrapped with the single quote? What do we do then? Say here is word displayed, and see, this word has been enclosed with the single quote, and you should use the double quotes at both at front and at the end. Okay, similarly if you want to use the double quote here, you have to use the single quote. Yes, so you see here the word is wrapped up by double quotes. Okay, so the next is the escape sequence in the print function. Okay, before that, that new line and that tab separated. So let me just my first line and second line. Here you see my first line and my second line. This got printed in one line only, but I want to send it to the next line, so just use \n for the new line, and yes, it is separated. And another separated line. Like this. T, and we have got one tab space here. And what if I want to print one backslash in between two words here? So in this case we have to use this backslash as an escape sequence here. So just like this. Okay, so we have got one backslash printed in between and another, and this is and by using the escape sequence. Okay, fine. I'm going to talk about the eval function. Okay, so eval function operates on the string and it evaluates the string expression. So print eval 2 plus 3. So we're getting an output of 5 here. What if we try to print plus 2 like this? See, so it treats these two as two different arguments, and it just concatenates these two, 2 and 3, and it makes 2 3 like this, 23 here. But if you want to add these two integer values, then you have to print it like this, 2 plus 3. Similarly, you can do a multiplication here, I guess 6. Okay, fine. Now I'm going to talk about the input function, which is very important in Python. So input function in Python actually enables us to accept an input string from the user end, and it doesn't evaluate its value. Whatever you give the value, it only takes the input. It only takes as the input from the user. So let's say I want to pass one name, and let's store it in a name variable here, input, and enter your name. Okay, let's print the name here, name entered as name. Okay, so see, in the console it asks you to enter the name. So if I enter my name here and hit enter, and then it prints my name. So the next thing is, what if I do not pass any string value and I pass one integer value here? Would it throw an error, or will it just work as fine? Let's run this code, and let's say 345 is my name, just an integer value here. So name entered as 345. So it doesn't throw you any error, but one has to be very careful while dealing with these kind of scenarios, because I'm going to give you one short example which would pretty much explain what could be problem while when you are not careful about the data types that you are taking as the input. So let's make one profit, selling price. Let's take out one selling price from by getting the input of cost price and profit. So cost price is equal to input, enter the cost here, and then profit, PF, let's make it PF is input, and a profit, and selling price, putting it in variable SP, which is going to be the cost price plus profit. Okay, I think I used a cap here, yes. And let's print the selling price. Selling price SP. Okay, fine. So if we run this program, it is asking for cost. Let's give 30. Asking for profit, let's say 5 rupees. So selling price I'm getting 305. This is something I didn't want to see, because I wanted to see 35 here, because the input it took as default as the string here. So all you have to do is the type conversion here. So how do we do that? You have to make it int, just like this. Similarly, profit, make it int. let's run this code again. Enter the cost 30, profit 5, selling price I'm getting as 35. So here you see that both the values we are getting input is being taken as integer, and when we are using SP, it also takes as the integer addition here. 30 plus 5 makes it 35, and we are printing this value as 35 here. So one has to be very careful while dealing with these kind of scenarios. Okay, so next move on to that next section of next built-in functions. Type is like if we print type 12, we are gonna get int, because the 12 type here is int. If we make it one string value, we're gonna get str. That means it tells you that this particular parameter, it is a string type and it belongs to class str here. Okay, and another built-in function which is quite helpful is help. Actually, I think you don't have to print the value. So help, you can pass one like int. So just by typing help and passing as integer, that means it is going to give you the definition of that class int here. Similarly, you could replace it with an int value. Here we are giving 2, and since 2 is an integer, therefore we are getting that particular integer's type, that is int, here as the output here. Similarly, we can print str. It's gonna give you the class str's definition. You can check this out in the console. Is format. The format function actually is a format representation of a particular value, and which gets controlled by format specifier, and that format specifier actually depends on the value that you pass inside the format function. So if we print this format value if we print, let me just take this inside. Yeah, if we print 100 inside format, if we print it, we're getting 100 here. So that means that it just like acts like one string output here. But this 100 is a decimal figure here. Let's convert it, let's format it to a binary equivalent. See, we are getting a binary equivalent of the 100. Similarly, we can get the hexadecimal equivalent of the 100 as well. So this is x here. So see, so hexadecimal equivalent of 100 is 64, and it's printing the value 64 here. I would like to mention that there is another hex function available just to get the hexadecimal directly like this. You do not have to format it to hexadecimal representation, and you can print the value like this. Okay, so by default it gets padded with 0 and x here. So that's the reason we formatted it to x here. The default is like has and small x you have to use, I guess. Yes, and if we use small x only, we want to get 64. Yeah, okay, fine. So like this you can change the representations of a particular value, but be very careful about the format specifier that you are using, and whether it is actually applicable on that value that you are passing or not. So this format specifier, like if we use one string value here, let's say hi, it is not going to work. See, because it's telling format hi and slash x value unknown format code x for that object of type str, because that x, which is that hexadecimal representation of a digit or of a value, decimal value, it can only operate on the decimal value. So since this high is one string value, str value here you see, so it's not going to operate on that high, so it will give you an error in this case. Okay, let's move on to that. Some small function here, like we have minimum maximum function. Let's call it minimum 20, 30 and 6. We are getting 6 as the minimum value. Print, we have maximum. To get the maximum of the values here, 45, we're going to get 40 here. So it is not necessary to pass the integer values inside this min max function. It can operate on strings as well. Let's get the value here, I and xi. See, we are getting xi because the first character of the string h here, here is x, which is at higher position than the h. Being at higher position, it prints, it takes the xi or z, whatever you call it, as the maximum of it. And let's change it to hello, and we are getting maximum of hello. I think I can make it, yes. So see, now we are getting high because this first character matches, both are the same, and it moves on to the next character. It compares I against t, so being I being at the higher position, so it takes high as the maximum value. Similarly, we can get the minimum value of it. So another thing is that absolute value of 45.5. let's run this code. We're getting absolute value of 45.5. what if we change it to minus? Then we are gonna get the absolute value, we'll get the difference here. See, negative of 45.5 absolute value gives us 45.5. okay, another function, it is length here. So length returns the length of a string, just like this. Okay, date 6, date 333, should return 9 here, yes, 9. So it returns the length of that string. I think I have another function round is there. So round is going to round off to a particular decimal place here, say 2, and run this code. We're going to get 45.57 as the output. So see, here we have our value 45.566, and 2 means it would be rounded off to the second decimal place. Therefore, we get 45.57 as our output. What if we make it, let's say 1, and we make it to the first decimal place? I think it should print 45.5 only. Yes. So these are the very basic functions that you can work with. So I think guys, I have explained and covered the most basic functions we use in Python. There are a lot of functions that you can use, like math modules and all. So probably I'm going to cover these in some separate videos. Here, if you think I have missed out something, please let me know, and feel free to drop your queries in the below comment section. And thank you very much.